devolution is that decisions are taken locally. Now, many people would say, look, we're not actually that sort of country. It works well in very large states where you don't have borders running up against each other, as in the fairly densely populated United Kingdom. But within the terms of a devolution debate, that should be about choice. And if the only choice is we're going to soak taxpayers so that there's more money being spent, that's not giving people choice.
Mayors in England are going to get more financial powers in a devolution shake-up by Andy Burnham's government. The First Secretary of State, Louise Haigh, told us this morning that they will have wide powers, but that will not include being able to issue tax rebates. Let's speak to the Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Andrew Griffith. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to speak to you. Ben Houchen, the Conservative Mayor for the Tees Valley region, has been talking about dishing out these rebates with new powers that are on the way, but he's not going to be able to.
Well, I think that tells you everything, right? I mean, the whole point of devolution, if you thought that was the right way forward, would be that local mayors would decide. Now, of course, remember, half of the country don't even have a local mayor. Their populations don't want that, or not. That's not their choice. But if you can't choose to put out rebates, that's not devolution at all. What we're really seeing is just another form of higher taxes being given to local authorities. We've seen overnight the revelation that on the government's own figures, by the end of this parliament, well, by 2030, average annual council tax bills will be 500 higher. Now, that was before this announcement. So what it sounds very like is the idea that there's simply going to be higher taxes and you can only have higher spending. There's no ability for people to spend less, save taxpayers' money.
On the rebates point, why is that such a contentious issue? Because one reading of that is that the government simply wants mayors to be able to spend on public services more wisely in the areas that they run, rather than dishing out bribes to voters.
Well, it's about choice, isn't it? I mean, I thought the whole point about devolution is that decisions are taken locally. Now, many people would say, look, we're not actually that sort of country. It works well in very large states where you don't have borders running up against each other, as in the fairly densely populated United Kingdom. But within the terms of a devolution debate, that should be about choice. And if the only choice is we're going to soak taxpayers so that there's more money being spent, that's not giving people choice. Mayor Houchen may want to make his area more attractive to live. The government talks about cost of living. Well, one of the most tangible ways of helping people with the cost of living is either not putting up their council tax or giving them a rebate if they're going to reallocate some of the national spending pot. I don't want to be too cynical about these things, but it feels very much, I mean, this whole point gives it the lie that it really is just another form of public spending. And if the government wants to make a case of soaking the south or the west of the England in order simply to spend more money on their own mayoral areas, then they should come to the country and explain that.
But it's not their own mayoral areas, is it? Because every mayoral area will get it, and that means reform mayors will get these powers and Conservative mayors will get these powers. So that is a slightly odd argument to make. But the other part of it, I suppose, is what you're saying is that you disagree with the idea that that mayors will be able to keep some of the income tax and business rates that's generated in their area and spend it on public services. But I'm confused as to why that is a bad idea.
Well, I didn't say it's a bad idea, but
Right.
That's not what the government is saying. If the idea of devolution is about mayoral choice, is about local communities making decisions local to them, then it shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. You can only spend more money. If a mayor in their authority, the elected mayor, remember half of the country do not have an elected mayor. The government is at the same time as saying they want more decisions to be made locally, removing things like the decision of academy school boards to decide their own pay for headmasters. So it's not really a devolution government. It's a pick and mix approach to devolution that only seems to involve higher public spending. There's no detail, as I understand it, being given today. We don't know what the government's plans to rebalance are. Different areas have different business rates or different income tax rates. But start with the basic principle. If it's about choice, And Conservatives are not against choice. In many cases, we want decisions to be made locally. Look at what the government are doing on train nationalisation. They're taking away decisions from local train franchises about the services they want and repatriating those decisions to Whitehall. Let's see some consistency about a devolution agenda, if that's what the government want to do, rather than a sort of pick a mix approach where the only certainty is that people are going to pay more money. Their council taxes are going to go up. And who knows what's going to happen to their income taxes.
I'm interested in speaking to you as well, Andrew Griffith, this morning about Kemi Badenoch writing in The Telegraph. I suppose trying to explain, trying to justify, arguably, the Conservatives' position on net zero. Net zero scepticism, she writes, is too often confused with climate change scepticism, but they are not the same thing. And I just wonder if she's having to make this distinction because it has become such a culture war issue, hasn't it? The idea of net zero. And the stories have become intertwined, that if you are anti-net zero, you are a climate change denier. Do you think it has become confused in the messaging?
Well, look, I'm very happy to help clarify on my own account. I mean, there's a whole point of the science around the climate being changing. That's happened historically. It's happening again. It's a geological. Probably not quite the right word, but it's obviously something that's happened in history. I represent an area in the south of England that was once where glaciers were carving through the chalk valleys. So clearly climate is changing over time, and Conservatives accept that some of that is man-made climate change. We've built huge cities of concrete. We've changed some of the things that go into the atmosphere. So that's a point about the science. The whole point about the net zero piece is about you can't have just one orthodoxy about what you do about it. And so, there are new technologies, there's new ways of generating energy, there's new, one of the great things about AI and the whole compute revolution is it will optimize things. It'll remove congestion if it's allowed to do so, because it'll get everybody to take the best route that will minimize both their delays, but also their impact on the environment. So there are lots of different ways to try and fix this problem. Different countries have got their own ways. What it became, I think, was an orthodoxy that there's only one way. There's only one group of people, the Legal Climate Change Committee, that, like high priests, were allowed to have a view, and every single law and every action of government was required to go through that climate change committee of high priests. So you can get to a destination through many different journeys.
Okay.
And the dismantling that the Conservatives have done about the net zero legislative orthodoxy is very different from saying there isn't a problem here and we should work on how we solve that problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time this morning. Good to speak to you. Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Andrew Griffith there.